Meanwhile, in the murder shed...
You don't have to be a piece of shit that puts everything on YouTube.
Right.
Taylor,
we've been over this. When both of us are making the hand thing, you have to make the hand thing.
I don't talk with my hands.
That was Taylor's first lie of the YouTube channel. Okay. Bing. And welcome to Deep in the Amazon. So the premise of this show is that every time we've been looking around for something to watch, we've seen all of these movies that are really only on Amazon. They might stream other places, actually. I don't know. But Amazon has a lot of content. And every once in a while, we've stumbled across a good movie in all of that stuff, and mostly not. And so since we're stuck in a murder shed forever for this quarantine that doesn't end, we figured we would go watch everything on Amazon, given a long enough timeline, talk about it, rate it, review it, etc. We're hoping to find gold. Like, our goal here is to find 5-star movies. We're probably just going to wade through a lot of 1-star movies to do it.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Do they need us to? Something move around? Is that why you said that?
No, we're just in a murder shed.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Do we want to talk about the rules of Deep in the Amazon?
Yes, good call, Taylor. The rules of Deep in the Amazon. So rule number 1 is it has to be a movie that none of us have heard of. That's the first rule. Are there any other rules?
We can't look at the rating.
Yes, we have to look away from the screen and hit enter until it starts playing. So we don't get the description of the movie, we don't get the rating of the movie, we don't get an indication of what genre the movie may be. We're just in for whatever ride we're in. Okay, so has anybody heard of The Princess of Mars?
I have not.
I have not.
Do we have to watch that then? Is that the rules?
I think that's how it works.
Okay, everybody look away so you don't see the rating and you don't see the stars. And okay, I think we're going. Here we go.
Asylum!
Oh, we're watching an Asylum film. We want to review films, not documentaries.
Name's John Carter. U.S.
Oh no!
Are you kidding me?
Is this?
It's a John Carter of Mars. Because is that public domain?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
I have several.
Just do it. I don't want to be in this movie anymore either.
2 hours later.
Oh my God. So we just watched a movie called The Princess of Mars, and I think we have firmly established that our tagline for this show does need to be, "We're sorry." So there's 3 of us. We got a Rochambeau. 1, 2, 3, go. 1. Okay, so I got to talk about this movie. All right. Okay, so the plot of this movie.
You, the leaf, think you control your motion.
My only motivation is to return to my people, forget this experience, and all of you.
Yep, I'm feeling that.
Me too. So we start in Afghanistan. I think it's Afghanistan. They don't actually say, as far as I know, but
There's poppies and opium.
Opium. So,
I think it's
okay.
Afghanistan.
So John Carter. I almost said John Carpenter.
John Carpenter would have been a better.
I would love to see
John Carpenter's Mars.
John Carter of Mars.
John Carter of Mars would be amazing.
John Carter is some kind of special forces guy with a sweatshirt tied to his head, and he's doing something in Afghanistan. It's not clear what it is he's doing.
He's wandering around the desert with a gun. That's what he's doing.
I run a single-man operation, deep in country. My missions are classified, as I'm sure my story would be, except no one will believe it.
And for some reason, he goes into a small village, or maybe it's just a single house.
Yeah.
And there's a weird moment where he interacts with this guy, and they spout internet philosophy to each other for a minute.
Well, yeah, and you can't tell. Are they friends? Are
they seem like
they seem to know each other. But
they do. They either seem to know each other, or it's a really poor version of a "we're gonna be friends in this movie, and this is how we're meeting." It's something like that.
Something like that.
And he seems to be a good guy though. And then it hard cuts to John Carter leaving to go somewhere else, but suddenly he's back at the same house, I think.
And it's nighttime.
And it's nighttime, and there's 4 guys, and they have the first Afghani captured, and then John Carter tries to free him.
He tries to free them in what is easily the stupidest, most cliche way possible, with a dead man switch on a
dead
bomb.
man switch on a mortar.
Hey, let him go.
What is so funny?
look on your face when I blow up all your opium.
How do you know this is OPM?
Wait, he just
stood up. He was
not
on a stool.
He was not tied to that chair.
He was not.
But it's to save the guy that as soon as they let him go, he shoots John Carter because he's their boss.
What? The fuck? Oh yeah. They didn't even upgrade Action Essentials.
So this was a trap for John Carter, who was just in that guy's house with his guard down. I think it even might have been, and I'm not sure, I think it even might have been those three guys that were sitting in the house were the bad guys. So they could have shot him in the back just then. But they didn't. John Carter shot the Afghani. The Afghani shot John Carter. And then it cuts to a video game cutscene from the Metal Gear Solid games.
It was funny the other day when you said Mars. Quite prescient, really. We are sending you to Mars.
Right. And there are two doctors over John Carter who has a head wound now.
Because their hospital set was a black room with a hospital bed in it.
Yes, and like one other prop.
Yeah.
This is where it gets good. Then the doctor says, we have put the entirety of your essence
on a
16 gigabyte flash drive.
Yeah.
And then we are going to sliders fax it to Mars. Not the Mars in this solar system, another planet called Mars in a different galaxy.
Not the Mars that you think. This is Mars 216. A small planet in the orbit Alpha Centauri, the fourth planet out from its sun. Our scans show an exceeding possibility that this planet could hold life.
So you're going to mail a flash drive to it? They don't explain how they get the flash drive to Mars or how a flash drive on New Mars will constitute an entire person.
You know, they didn't even have anything on Mars to receive it.
Well, they didn't have anything on Mars to receive
showed up
it.
in the middle of the desert, just
on Mars,
buck naked.
So that happens. So then he finds himself at the Star Trek rock, the Vasquez rock.
Yes. So
and stays there for a very, very long amount of time.
60% of this movie takes place at the Vasquez rock.
Doesn't care, not fazed at all by the fact that he's there on an alien planet.
No.
Immediately realizes that he can jump. We do have to talk about the jumping for a minute. Neil Breen-esque is a great way to describe some of them. But so he trips and or decides to jump, and then it just shows him landing. There's no... it's the first one. It's supposed to be the reveal of this information.
Oh, so that's how they showed that, I guess.
Did he just know he could do that? Like, why did he try jumping in the first place?
Yeah. Ooh,
I think the point is he tripped and accidentally went that far.
I love how he's just rolling with this.
He's like Deathstalker 2 chill with it.
And then most of the rest of the shots in this movie are him jumping up onto an apple box and jumping down from an apple box into and out of frame.
Which is the smart way to do it. I'm not gonna lie.
Then some aliens show up. Nothing really happens. It's just like they're like, hey, you're weird. Here's some chains. Come with us. Jump around.
Remember, first he steals some Bed Bath & Beyond curtains off of like tent poles that are shoved in a hole.
That are hiding.
They're like hiding eggs.
You're right. He pulls off a Bed Bath & Beyond shower curtain and ties it around his waist because he was naked. Somehow that teleports underwear on him, which is important for later, or else we would have seen Antonio Banderas Jr.'s junk. Sabato Jr. Sorry.
Sabaro. Yeah.
Sabato?
It's Sabato, but I'm calling him Sabaro because he seems like he's from a mall food court.
Yeah. And then they pull out the second character from Enemy Mine for him to fight.
Yes, there's a lot of zombies in this.
Before he can fight him, a spider kills the Enemy Mine thing.
The way that he was moving made it look like he was controlling the spider.
Oh, at first, yeah.
Like,
at first I thought that's what it was.
He thought the spider was coming, like you're not actually fighting this guy.
Yeah.
He's just the trainer of the spider that you're actually
he's just
fighting.
Ernie Reyes Jr. running around.
But then they all start shooting, and no one seems surprised the spider showed up, but they all start fighting them anyway.
Well, that's a big point in this movie.
That's a theme.
No one is surprised by anything that happens in this movie.
Especially Tracy Lord.
Your fate I will savor.
Then aliens show up and they say, you're weird and we're weird and hello, and it seems like they're threatened by him or antagonistic toward him, but I guess they're not, and they know what humans are and they hate humans, but they're kind of cool with him because he can jump, I guess. Well, okay, there's something about this culture that they travel in circles 48 times, and then if they travel in a circle enough, they end up in a different location. Keep turning their maps in circles. That's why they end up in the same spot every time.
Well, when you only have one set, you got to walk in a circle.
So anyway, the spiders then show up, and everyone fights the spiders. And so Antonio Sabaro Jr., who is either a prisoner or a trophy, is just freed and allowed to fight.
One of them is like, I will free you for no reason whatsoever. They have no reason to free this guy.
Then a quote-unquote action sequence happens where they point guns but don't pull the trigger. There are gun sound effects. There are cuts to no spiders dying, cutting back to them not pulling the trigger, cutting back to them with no spiders dying, and they do that enough and then all the spiders are dead. The spiders attacking, I think, is because they broke one of those eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the spiders are the ones with the Bed Bath & Beyond blanket technology.
I think so too. And the eggs also contained what looked like a little encephalitic human fetus.
Oh, I did an abortion. It did, but it could have been one of them.
Covered in green.
Well, no, because the spiders burst into green goo, and there was green goo in the eggs.
Either this civilization of mandible aliens, the sentient ones, what are they called?
I've just been calling them the Tusky Raiders.
Okay, so either the Tusky Raiders lay eggs and hide their eggs in random places,
but also think it's funny to destroy them
underneath blankets, or they're spider eggs, and that's why the spiders attacked.
Yeah.
If they're Tusky Raider eggs, then the spider attack makes no sense. So they kill all of the spiders, and then they make him a captain of some kind.
You have earned your position amongst us. As our tradition, you are often the things of the warrior you defeated on the first day.
Well, hold on, you missed a huge chunk that we need to talk about, because he didn't get promoted until late after the spaceship. Before that, he went to the room and drank the slug milk.
I 100% get what they were going for. He's on an alien planet, and things are different on an alien planet, and so he's asking for food, and
which they don't understand each other.
How about some water? Drinking water, liquids.
He goes like this, and then he goes like this, and then one of the aliens pulls a sweat rag off his back and puts it into an IKEA cup. And then he drinks from the IKEA cup, says it tastes good. Everybody laughs like they've pulled a prank on him, but no one clarifies later that that is a prank or gives him real water. So they just think it's funny that he drank from an IKEA cup. Maybe the IKEA cup was the joke. Anyway.
Good.
That's funny.
I have something in my mouth. It's this movie.
That's kind of savage.
Then he says he wants food, and they say, okay, so they sit him down, and then a woman alien, right? Because it was clearly a woman alien.
Clearly a woman.
She goes off screen, and there's some retching sounds, and it's like she's puking, and then she brings him back yogurt in a novelty, like, dollar store cup.
Yeah, with stars.
With stars.
Like, punched through it, so...
And so then he eats the yogurt with his hand and says it doesn't taste bad. And so then she brings him out a maggot and pours the maggot puke into the cup, and now he doesn't want to eat it. So he was fine with eating her vomiting into a cup, but not a maggot vomiting into a cup.
Yeah.
I get what they were going for, but it didn't make any sense, and it was edited together so poorly.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
Okay, so anyway, now he's one of them somehow, and then a spaceship shows up. And
because he ate the bug.
You forgot the babblefish.
Oh, right. So then they come back with more food, and that food he doesn't want to eat because it's bugs, and he just refuses to do it. They make him eat it, and now he can talk because apparently chewing and eating a bug and putting it in stomach acid makes you understand foreign languages. Okay.
Yes.
Jubilee Beetle allows all to communicate.
The next thing that happens is there's a spaceship, and they all hate the spaceship.
They fucking hate that spaceship.
So they shoot the spaceship, and even though the spaceship has, like, Gatling guns, and they all have pea shooters, they somehow set the spaceship on fire. Once the ship is on fire...
The metal ship.
Then Tracy Lords does a series of pantomimes with some other actors, and one of them is all hidden, and he's clearly some kind of bad guy. They're going for like a Boba Fett vibe or a
Sheik from Zelda.
Sheik from Zelda, some ninja,
something like
that's
that.
what they're going for. And so she escapes on like an
upside down
REI
kayak.
canoe,
Yeah.
you know, and she flies away. And then the ninja guy like murders the other two people.
Well, he kind of murders the other two people. Like, everything is half-assed. Even the death is half-assed.
Yeah. So then John Carter jumps up on the ship, saves the two people, saves one. No, doesn't save either.
Grabs both of the two.
He jumps up on the ship, and they're the only two people on the ship. By the way, even though they've now lit the ship on fire, the ship still takes 7 to 12 hours to crash.
Yeah, it takes that. Well, and also, okay, so I think that there was another piece in here, and they re-edited everything because at one point the background of the ship is rocks, and at one point, like they're standing in a completely different location.
He jumps up on the ship, and one of the guys that the ninja has just murdered is still alive, and the murdered guy says that the Tusky Raiders are going to defile their corpses, so could you please move us under a rock? And so John Carter, and I don't know, again, when he's under that rock, the guy says, well, it's sad that I'm dying because I was going to some sort of reclamation facility to keep the air clean. And then he gives John Carter a children's nursery rhyme about the power plant.
Day by day, night by night, we keep the air clean and bright.
Day by day, night by night, we keep the air clean and bright.
Clean makes sense, bright doesn't, but it's because it rhymes with night.
Yeah.
So then once that happens, I honestly get a little confused for a second, I think, in my recollection.
So John Carter leaves, the ship crashes, John Carter goes to the ship crash site. The princess appears out of nowhere and draws a sword on him. He says sorry about this, knocks her out.
So the princess flies away on a little aircraft and leaves the atmosphere and then still somehow sees...
Circle.
Yeah, it's a circle thing. Because she sees some of it to know that he was on the ship, which doesn't make any sense because she didn't see the ninja kill the two guys, but she did see John Carter on the ship. So she shows back up and she has a sword that she doesn't know how to use. And John Carter says, I'm on your side or something, and she doesn't believe him. And so then he says, yeah, you'll thank me for this, and then punches her, and then picks her up, and then the Tuskegee Airmen show up, and he says, this is my prisoner, I've captured her. They talk about slaves earlier.
For like a half a second because he gets everything.
Because even though he didn't kill the enemy mine alien, he gets all of his stuff, including his slaves, which he says he doesn't want.
And his debt, which that was actually kind of cute.
And his debt. So then when he has a prisoner, the princess, they don't let him have that prisoner, but they put her in a cage that's super easy to get out of. They never really leave Vasquez Rock. At one point, the ninja has spied on them. They've traveled for days, but he's still spying on them from the Vasquez Rock. Finally, they're traveling in circles long enough that they see the reclamation plant, talk about it, decide not to go, and then are immediately at the Tuskegee Raiders main castle base of operations.
Well, so the Tuskegee Raiders think that this is like literally fake news. They think that the air reclamation plant is a hoax.
That the humans are using to control
them. Yeah.
The Tuskegee Raiders, even though clearly no one is controlling the Tuskegee Raiders because they attack everybody.
That's the biggest problem, is there's no clear class structure here. Because sometimes people are in charge, and sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're prisoners, and sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're friends, and sometimes they're not. Like, no one is ever in charge.
There's one clear person in charge, and it's the guy that's in the plywood box with the other IKEA curtains on it.
In terms of the Tuskegee Raiders,
there
seems to be one clear guy in charge of the Tuskegee Raiders. People talk about the princess like she's in charge of the humans, but she doesn't seem to have any authority. She has no retinue. She doesn't seem to have any power or responsibility of any kind. When she finally shows up at the end, when she's talking to the guy in the reclamation plant, he questions why she's there, which you wouldn't do if it was like the supreme leader of the world.
She has
Sometimes it seems like she has no power.
No secret knowledge.
And sometimes the Tuskegee Raiders say that she's worshipped as a god.
Yeah.
So it's super all over the place.
Bizarre.
So they finally get to the castle, and they all go in to talk to the leader. And the motivations for that are unclear to me currently. I think it was just because the Tuskegee Raider that was John Carter's friend thought that he was going to take him to the leader, and the leader
Boss Nass would be like,
happy.
Yeah.
And so instead they get in front of Boss Nass, and Boss Nass says, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." I mean,
none of you are cool.
It just none of it makes any sense, right?
We hate humans, but check out my blind ones. They're awesome.
He does have two blind slave women in Target bikinis.
One of them's doing yoga.
So they get in front of the Boss Nass Tuskegee Raider, and he demotes the Tuskegee Raider best friend. Does he say he's going to kill the princess?
No, he's going to make her beautiful.
He's going to add her to his hair.
He's just going to add her to his hair. Okay.
Yeah.
So then
that's a whole thing too. We'll get to.
So then they take John Carter and they go put him in a dungeon. And some shots in the dungeon there's a wood floor, and some shots in the dungeon there's a stone floor.
Yeah.
John Carter is in the dungeon, and
the Rancor's coming.
And then you do have this shot. You have this slow push-in shot. You have a dollar store skeleton, right, and a tunnel, and you figure there's going to be a Rancor coming, and instead, what comes is the ninja. Who is not in chains or anything. He just shows up like he snuck. Like when he first showed up, I thought he had broken into the place to kill John Carter for some reason.
Now it's important to say there is a chain in the tunnel, but he is not connected to it as
to
far
it.
as we can tell.
And I think that John Carter is tied up.
Yes, John Carter's chained.
Oh yeah, because all he has to do is like
because he's making a fist and he can't get out
so
of
that
the
he can't
shackles.
get out of the shaft.
But he has to keep making a fist, or you'll notice that it'll just.
So,
slip right
but
out.
the point is there he's chained up.
He's chained up.
So he's chained up and captured.
Yeah.
The ninja shows up, no chains, pulls his mask off, and it's the Afghan.
T-seller opium guy.
T-seller opium guy from the beginning of the movie that takes place on Earth.
I think we're supposed to be like, whoa, but in reality, it's like, oh.
So then he says something like, I went to the military on my deathbed and gave them all of my information, and so they sent me here. It's a really long conversation about the ins and outs of his trials and tribulations since he got shot, and then it's like, and then I was on fake Mars. Okay.
And then 2 Tusky Raiders enter the room and ignore the guy completely.
Yeah, so they go to fetch John Carter, and the Afghani ninja watches them take John Carter away. The Tusky Raiders don't acknowledge the ninja doesn't acknowledge the Tusky Raiders.
Right.
So he seems like a free agent.
We go to the gladiator arena that is basically just some
Right.
valley in the hills.
So what's his name? Tarj
Tarkin.
Tarkin?
I am Tars Tarkus.
Something.
Okay, so Grand Moff Tarkin,
right.
then starts making a plot to save John Carter. Somehow he goes to the woman that regurgitated stuff in the first place and says, I have a plan, but I have a task for you. She goes and rescues Tracy Lords because one Tusky Raider and a bunch of blind chicks in bikinis are pouring Alka-Seltzer into her belly button, which is terrible for some reason. And then the Tusky...
Well, they're trying to. They can't figure out how to turn the bottle over.
Well, they're all
Because
blind. They have no idea.
And like some of them, they forgot the blind makeup in one of the shots, and then they didn't forget the blind
Some
makeup.
of them are acting blind, some of them aren't. Okay.
So
Then she shows up and kills the Tusky Airmen and frees Tracy Lords.
all the blind captives also flip out for no fucking reason. After
Oh
she
yeah,
beheads them,
if you're
they
watching the
can't see-
background, they lose their mind.
Yeah, because like they can't see her beheading the other Tusky Raider.
They could hear it, I guess.
But they just lose their shit.
They-
like one of them runs into the wall. and-
Yeah. So then when she's when Regurgitation Tusky Raider is absconding with Tracy Lords, all of the women in that shot escape the movie. They're like, we can get away. Okay, so that's happening in the meanwhile.
That's-
right?
yes.
Because what's really happening in this semblance of a plot is they take John Carter to Genosha to have him fight in an arena, right, where all of like us, they got a single Tusky Raider
and they copied
cheering and they copy and pasted them all along the ridge. And then they make him fight his friend, his Tusky Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin. They throw him in the arena with a bag over his head, and John Carter's like straight up murdering this dude. He doesn't think about it. He's just like he's going with the flow.
Because
He's
there's
like,
a costume shop axe that gets thrown out too.
Right. There's no motivation for John Carter to do
just
that
goes with
other than it's what's supposed to happen now,
goes
and I
with
just
it.
go with the flow. But Grand Moff Tarkin pulls his mask off in time, sees it's his friend, doesn't want to do it, throws his halberd down, says, "I won't fight you." Tarkin picks up the sword and says, "Yes, we will fight," which is clearly meant to be some kind of ruse, but it's not filmed that way.
It's not filmed that way. It just looks like he's like, fuck it,
So
I'm
he
killing him.
cuts John Carter's chains off his hands, so he's got free hands, and then John Carter repays him by throwing him 40 miles an hour into a wall, which does not kill him, but knocks him out for a minute. Then the ninja shows up, and I think the ninja was in chains too.
No, he wasn't. Because remember, he just jumps up onto the cliff.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, well, he
so
comes
the
out and he
ninja
said-
shows up, and everyone else there is cool with the ninja showing up and joining this fight.
Nothing happens. Like nobody cheers, nobody freaks out.
No,
it's
they're
just
just, well, this is
fine.
what happens next. And everybody's fine with that. So I guess the ninja was a prisoner? Because he says later, they took me prisoner.
He says that.
So the other thing that he says is if you have a superpower, never let anyone know.
They know John Carter can jump around, so they chain him to a rock. They think that the ninja guy's a regular human.
Yeah.
So the regular human shows up and then jumps away, says exactly what you said, and then jumps away. Once he escapes from Genosha, how do we end the Genosha stuff?
Tusky McTarkin wakes up.
Gets back. Okay, thank you. I forgot. Okay,
And
so
the rock that John Carter's chained to is no longer chained to him because
there's another rock. John Carter is
picks up a
still
rock.
chained to a rock.
Got it.
There's a pickup shot of a rock that's clearly not a real rock, but clearly a tangible physical item. You see him pick up the plastic rock. Then you cut to John Carter holding a CGI rock,
which he throws and arcs in his shot,
and so he throws it,
and then it laser.
It goes 4,000 miles an hour in a straight line, and then apparently this is where the big reveal of the movie happens. Rocks that hit people explode in hundreds of tiny rocks.
Oh, and so more rocks form where the rocks are exploding.
Throws the rock at Boss Nass, and Boss Nass's box clearly explodes. There's no way anyone could survive that explosion. So even though that happened, the box, still intact, has fallen slightly, and the fat-ass Boss Nass is now on the ground, which gives Tarkin enough motivation to walk over to him. Oh, in the fight that John Carter is having with his friend Tarkin, he says, "If I kill you, I'll become a commander." To which Tarkin says, "If I was a commander, but I'm not a commander anymore." Then John Carter asks Tarkin, "Well, what if you killed the boss?" Tarkin says that he can't defeat Boss Nass, but that was before Boss Nass exploded from a million rocks, but was fine, right? So that changed the physics of the equation.
Weakened him a little bit, you know.
Right, exactly. So then after the box that Boss Nass hangs out in is exploded and has fallen slightly, Tarkin walks over to him and says, "I challenge you for the supreme leadership of the Tusky Raiders."
Yeah.
And then Boss Nass says, "No, I have to agree to that," but then tries to stab him anyway. And then Tarkin makes him stab himself, and then claims leadership over everybody.
And they're like,
everyone's super cool with it.
Cool.
Everybody's like, yeah, and there's no politics in this movie, so it's not like, well, we didn't like this guy because he wasn't leading us right. Now Boss Nass is dead, and I guess Tarkin is the supreme ruler of the Tusky Raiders, which means the Tusky Raiders and Tarkin are no longer in the movie.
Just done.
So now John Carter is gonna go to the reclamation facility.
He's gonna go. Yeah, he's gonna go to the air.
But because the female regurgitation Tusky Raider has freed Tracy Lords,
that's probably where she's going to be.
Tracy Lords is going there,
right?
And she meets the Afghani ninja there. So she shows up at the reclamation facility. And then the ninja is at the reclamation facility, and then they have a really long conversation. That's when he says, "I got captured."
Yeah.
That's where he says, "I escaped," and all that stuff. And then while that's happening,
he says John Carter's dead at that point,
she
right?
asks him about John Carter.
Right.
And he says, John Carter is dead. Then he says, John Carter wanted to be your servant, and he loved you. And he starts, like, praising John Carter.
Which, like, okay,
all
if
of
this
it's
is
a lie,
subterfuge,
but all of it's an unnecessary lie.
It's an unnecessary lie.
That's to manipulate her and saying, he was the best, but I'm his replacement, and so he's dead, but you might be able to love me.
And she's like, I can't. My heart belongs to the guy who literally punched me out, who I said I hated the whole movie, and who really hasn't had anything.
That I thought hated me, she even says. I thought, yeah, it's the whole thing.
I love you, Sorsha. I don't love her. She kicked me in the face.
So then they go to another video game cutscene. This is straight out of one of the Myst games or Abduction or whatever, where they knock on the door and there's nobody answers. She uses the tuning fork and then puts it in a secret tuning fork holder.
That's terrible.
So then she says hello to the door several times, and then finally, the little micro cutscene in the computer-generated door from Myst or whatever opens up, and there's a guy behind it.
Is anyone there? Hello?
Good day.
And what did you call him?
I just said he's Elliot from E.T.
Oh yeah, he's a little creepy-looking guy, and he has been doing drugs right before he was summoned, right?
Princess, thank you.
He has no idea what's happening. Doesn't like that she's there.
He was waiting for replacements too.
Waiting for replacements.
And still was like, why are you here? I think it's important to note at this point, we are now in a high school like boiler room. I know it's probably part of the plant that they filmed at, but it just looks like a high school basement.
It does. So he lets them in and takes them to the CGI like orb that cleans the air, I guess. And John Carpenter is also there because he got there. And,
he jumped.
And then he goes like the long way around, and so then they finally get to the CGI like MacGuffin thing. And the Afghani ninja, who has until this point pretended to be on Tracy Lord's side, goes over to like the one of the pipes on the CGI device, and that's when John Carter is like, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah.
And they're all like, "Oh, okay, so John Carter's here now." And again, just everybody rolls with whatever's happening.
It's fine.
And so then the Afghani ninja says, "Do you know what this is? We are never explained what the thing he's talking about is. It's a pipe of some kind." And John Carter's like, "Don't do it." And he's like, "I'm going to do it. Don't do it. I'm going to do it." And then he does it, and so it breaks.
No, it's better. He pulls the pipe off and then throws it into the CGI.
Oh, right. Okay, so it's a very important distinction. You are correct. He pulls the pipe off, which begins arcing with cartoon lightning by itself. And then he throws the cartoon arcing lightning pipe into the CGI orb of MacGuffin, which breaks everything, right?
And starts to explode, but never does.
So that fucks up the planetary screensaver, which is like the atmosphere. Yeah. Tracy Lords leaves for reasons that I can't quite remember. And so then there's a brief discussion about how there's a backup regulator or whatever, but that John Carpenter is going to die before it could possibly get turned on or powered up or whatever it is. Okay, and so then proceeds to be something that puts every Highlander sword fight to absolute shame. I mean, the combat at the end of this. Okay, even though John Carter has never had this weapon, suddenly John Carter is fighting with a Roman centurion sword.
Yes.
And the Afghani ninja has a
scimitar,
cavalry cutlass.
Oh, right, the cutlass.
A cavalry saber. Like from the Civil War.
And during this time, because they can't make these guys fight any better.
Nobody knows how to fight.
They're cutting.
It's like they just took the same shot and made it 400 times bigger.
Yeah,
so you could just see the punched in.
And it's so fast. These are happening so fast, like it almost makes you motion sick. They're happening so fast.
And it goes on. So they sword fight for a long time.
Then there's the pipe scene where they're walking on opposite sides of a pipe. They both see each other's feet, but that doesn't.
It's shot like they're doing a cat and mouse thing.
Yeah.
But they both know each other are there. They both see each other's shadows, and they come around the corner and they just keep talking to each other for a minute before they keep fighting.
Before they go back to the same kind of sword fighting. Well, at one point we walk by a plain as day fire extinguisher stuck to a wall, which I love that moment.
Yes.
The fight ends. So air is running out. The Tusky Raiders are trying to push the building over.
Oh, yes.
For no reason.
So for the entire sword fight, the Tusky Raiders are trying to push the building over.
No, they're trying to push the pull door.
They're trying to push the pull door. And so the air's running out, and we keep cutting back to this terrible CGI screensaver of like fewer clouds, fewer clouds, fewer clouds.
How does the
Tusky Raiders lay down?
Right. No. But how does the ninja Afghani die?
I can't remember.
Holy shit.
Because they're fighting, and then...
Oh, the bug. They jump. So they're on opposite sides.
Right.
Oh, this is where the movie is actually turned out. They've been clever this whole time. They have set themselves up. Because the first time we talked about the spiders, which are called spiderlings, they don't fly. But the second time, they do fly. But now the spiders can fly. And so at the end, when they're sword fighting and jumping around and doing all that stuff, they end up on opposite sides of a big canyon in the building. And John Carter sees a bug, one of the spiderlings, flying, and so decides to jump in a way that causes the Afghani ninja to jump in a way so that they're guaranteed to meet each other where the bug is flying.
Yes.
So it's a geometry fight of epic proportions.
3D chess, man.
And so John Carpenter and Afghani ninja end up in the air touching each other for a couple seconds, and then the bug hits them, right?
Via the Afghani ninja guy.
The Afghani ninja guy finally decides to do the right thing and pushes John Carter to safety.
Gingerly.
Yeah. And then he dies. And then it's just the end.
The bug flies off and he's dead.
It's the end. Okay, so then we lose so much air that everybody just starts laying down like on Miranda. And then John Carter repeats the nursery rhyme.
Which she has already repeated part of because she knows it. She's like, everybody knows that earlier.
That makes her remember there's a backup that they've already discussed. I'm super unclear to why the by night and by day, or by day by night, that was the important part.
Night by night was the important part.
Because earlier in the movie he says clean and bright, and she's like, oh, everybody knows that, but how everybody knows that, but how do you know that? But he doesn't say the
day by day,
night by night part, which even though it rhymes and the whole point of rhyming historically was to remember language, she doesn't remember the first half of the nursery rhyme.
Right.
But then he says it at the end, and that makes her realize something, but I don't know what it is. So then they go through a door and they go back to the first set that is now unexploded, but that's supposed to be the backup.
I did look too, and the pipe was still there. I was like, maybe they forgot the pipe.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah. So they turn the thing back on
via theremin.
Yes. So she turns on the backup with a theremin, with like a really complicated theremin. That apparently takes some time.
It's got a lot of this going on.
It's
some wax on, wax off.
Right. So the Tusky Raiders have been pushing on the door, and they've all passed out, and they've all died. I mean, they went through the trouble of showing their eyes closing and the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they turn the thing back on. They fix the planetary screensaver.
It goes.
Everybody wakes up. Tracy Lords and John Carter are happy, and that's where you should probably have a denouement for your film. But instead, things get whitewashed out, and Slider teleports back to Mars, or back to Earth, in the same condition he was in when he left.
No time has passed.
No time has passed.
Dr. Shaft is standing over him.
They're both staring at him. He's got the head wound that his sweater was covering at the beginning. And then the voiceover says, I didn't tell him anything.
I didn't tell him nothing.
I didn't tell him anything because if they knew that it worked, they would send a lot of people there. They reinstate me into the special forces or whatever.
With that giant gaping head wound.
And then, to me, the most interesting thing in the movie happens. He goes and he gets back down in position with his sniper rifle on the exact same bush that he started the movie in, that he originally targeted the Afghan in. So this is a time loop movie that no one addressed. And so then it ends with him saying, I'm going to do my job until I'm able to go back to Mars.
To my princess.
To my princess, yeah.
My princess.
Which that's actually kind of a cute thing, because the whole my princess thing was a big deal.
Yes.
She wasn't anyone's princess. She's one person's princess, but only the person who has her heart.
Okay.
Which also, her heart, it sounded like she talked about the air thing being her heart at one point, but maybe she just meant the heart, and I don't know.
So that's the plot.
Holy fuck.
All right. So
I'm exhausted.
That took a while.
Antonio Sabato Jr., he's really strange. I'd say there's about 15% of this movie where I actually thought he was kind of acting pretty okay.
Yeah, for 15%.
It was weird because it wasn't enough for an entire performance. So what was going on there? But like every once in a while, he would say a line that I was like, if this was in a better movie, I would have liked that line.
Or it could have been a director problem. Like the director didn't tell him anything.
So
there was nothing in the script or anything that told him how to react to anything that was going on in that movie. And so that's why he's just super chill about everything that happens. There was no, like, be surprised.
Of the 4-day film shoot. Day one, he was like, all right, let's do this. After day one, he was like, well, fuck this. Tracy Lord spent half the movie asleep on his shoulder. I think, like, you were right on that. It was just like, I don't want to.
She's like, you didn't write me any lines for this, so I'm just going to take a nap.
Tracy Lords can't act.
No.
She can't move her face because of either Botox or something that we shouldn't make fun of. Taylor kept making the joke that you've never seen her smile. And then she did, and we found out why she shouldn't smile, because it was terrifying.
Put it up here. The people in prosthetics were so heavily prosthesed.
I felt bad for all of them. I couldn't tell if they were good actors or bad actors. They had to be entirely 80-yard because the costumes were in their way. I feel like the guy that played Tarkin might have actually been a fairly decent actor.
I think so. I think so. He felt okay. He felt like he was trying to.
There was some naturalism to his movements and some naturalism to the way
like he delivered humor through his voice.
Yeah.
Boss Nass was the worst fucking actor.
Boss Nass was legitimately bad, makeup or not. He was terrible.
He was a terrible actor.
Yeah. The Afghani. The Afghani ninja
great for a soap opera.
Was yes, very soap opera-esque is what I was thinking too.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Everything had weight to it.
It does not take weapons to kill, my princess. Avert your eyes.
Let's talk about the special effects and the makeup.
Okay, can we talk about the fucking egg? Anytime there's a special effect, camera motion exists behind the special effect.
Yeah.
So the guy, the Tusky Raider that throws the spear that gets all disappointed, it hits the egg and literal like MS Paint crack marks appear on the egg and then just move all around because the camera's not stationary.
This is the same guy that like duplicated the Tusky Raiders in different shots and forgot to resize them correctly. So sometimes there are giant Nephilim-like ones.
Yes.
The makeup on all of the Tusky Raiders, you can see the seam that was not blended.
They didn't blend it. They didn't even anchor it.
They didn't anchor it. Sometimes the mandibles are breaking off of the effects.
The bottom of the mask was coming up through the
Yeah, sometimes it's spilling out.
Oh, it's coming out of his... his fucking prosthetic came out of his clothes. You can see the seam where they injection molded it.
There's at least 2 and maybe 3 shots of a bug exploding that it's the exact same.
It's the exact same
liquefaction.
Blood hit. Yeah,
and it's just blood from Video Copilot or something.
And they move the hue.
To make it green.
Then they all just appear in a pile in one spot, and the levels of the pile are not they are not locked.
Yeah.
So they keep and not parallax. They're just fucking moving. Vibrating, yeah. I think, and when you say sliders, they literally use the slider special effect for getting to Mars. Like, it's out of the TV show practically. When they were in Shays Castle, which is one of the filming locations they had in LA, the floor is wood. But then they did a composite mat. I think you talked about this. They did a composite mat with a pre-generated hallway that was stone. But then they would cut back, and it was like very obvious. Well, that wood floor... So that's where their green screen was Shays Castle, because that wood floor is the same floor that was on the ship. The ship had the same gray slatted wood. The metal ship had a gray slatted wood floor. So they were doing their green screen stuff there. It was beyond humorous at some points, and then but also just terrible. It was just so bad.
Taylor, what is your Amazon rating of Princess of Mars?
I'm going to give Princess of Mars 2 stars because while it was inept in almost every single way, it wasn't every single way. There were good things about it.
Such as?
From being made in 2009, those special effects were actually fairly good.
Okay.
So they spent the money on that. I didn't notice until the end any of the music. Which is kind of how it should be. It wasn't phenomenal. They just got good songs and
they got competent enough.
And it wasn't just weird, random music. It was music that fit. They had a theme and all of that. The rest of it was mostly garbage, but I have to give it 2 stars.
2 stars. Andy?
I'm going to give it 1 star. That 1 star is 216, and there's a 4th planet orbiting it, and that planet sucks, and so that star sucks. I'm giving it the shittiest possible star I can give it. It is a piece of shit garbage star.
I will also give it 2 stars because I'm going to reserve my 1-star ratings for things like of Dyson Man. So we're going to say this is a 2-star movie?
It's a 2-star movie.
Okay, so Your Lame Friends Amazon rating of Princess of Mars is 2 stars. So there you go. Okay, so now at the end of every episode, we're going to read a question from our audience.
Oh.
And we don't have one. Good night, everybody. Okay, so John Carter. I almost said John Carpenter.
John Carpenter would have been a better.
We just watched we just watched. So regardless, John Carpenter. That's what his name is now. Of John Carpenter. John Carpenter's. John Carter of Mars.
John Carpenter's Princess of Mars.
So then John Carpenter is also there. John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
And it's the point of John Carpenter, kinda.
Yeah.